So, Batman Rise of Sin 2, sequel to the mostly amazing Batman Vengeance. Unfortunately, this is one of my least favorite Batman games. A common complaint I see about this game online is that the gameplay is very repetitive, and yeah, it's a button masher, a beat 'em up that doesn't really do anything all that special with the formula we've seen time and time again. But I wouldn't say the combat itself is what I hate most about it, because it can be fun in short spurts. The problem is how the levels in this game are structured, how boring and repetitive the objectives in them become. All you do in this game from start to finish is defeat a certain number of enemies, locate hostages, or locate bombs. That's it. Those three tasks in varying order. The only levels that deviate from those three things are the ones where you fight the boss villains, or, in one instance, are forced to defend the entrance to the Batcave from intruders. There are four playable heroes, Batman, Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl, that each have their own set of unlockable moves and combos. Variety is always nice. You can also play multiplayer co-op, which is cool, but that's not enough to distract you from what boils down to a sickeningly repetitive superhero game. Much like its predecessor, Batman Vengeance, Rise of Sin 2 is based on the television series The New Batman Adventures, set within the DC animated universe. It features the voice talents of Kevin Conroy, Tara Strong, Lauren Lester, and Scott Menville, reprising their roles of Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Robin respectively. The story takes place on the anniversary of Thomas and Martha Wayne's murder. Batman learns of massive breakouts at Arkham Asylum and Stonegate Penitentiary, and en route to the Gotham Courthouse to meet with Commissioner Gordon, the Dark Knight is attacked by the Scarecrow. The incarnation of Scarecrow from the new Batman Adventures, voiced once again here by Jeffrey Combs, is one of my favorite versions of him, second only to John Noble's in Batman Arkham Knight. His design is just so creepy looking, like a corpse that had just been cut down from the gallows. The boss battle with Scarecrow at the courthouse is pretty neat, because he fills the room with his fear toxin, which causes you to see apparitions of the Joker, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy that come after you. When you beat him, Batman literally leaves him hanging on the Justice statue, and you can hear him gasping for air with his little feetsies kicking. And Batman doesn't even seem to care. It's kind of funny, in a fucked up way.
Maybe this time, the Reaper will come.
No, not this time.
Throughout the levels leading up to Crane, fear gas will occasionally be released that warps the screen and disorients the player. It's a decent effect, but something much better done in games like LEGO Batman 2, for example. Here, it kind of hurts the eyes after a while, and gives me a headache. I also find it disappointing that when Scarecrow's goons transform into monsters while the gas is active, it just looks like they're in generic skeleton costumes you'd find at your local Halloween store. I don't think the developers pushed the fear visuals as far as they could have in this game, and it makes me wonder what Batman and Robin are afraid of, if this is what they see while under the effects of the fear gas. Are the Caped Crusaders scared of skeletons? If so, that's really weak. After defeating the Scarecrow, Batman is informed by Commissioner Gordon that Matt Hagen, Clayface, has taken over the Gotham Chemical Factory with the intention of turning the citizens of Gotham into clay creatures like himself. Revenge for Batman not helping Hagen cure his own ailment. I think the boss fight against Clayface was a key inspiration for the one we would later see in Arkham City, with all the smaller clay extensions of him attacking you in between phases. I actually really enjoy this boss encounter. It's probably my favorite in the entire game. To damage Clayface, you have to electrocute him by overloading the substations on the rooftop with your batarangs. Bane is another one of the villains featured in this game, but he doesn't play into the story a whole lot, apart from just working for the big bad and everything. He doesn't have his own unique motivations as to why he's there. I never really liked this version of Bane from the new Batman Adventures. The redesigned mask with the spiked collar looked kind of silly to me, and reminds me too much of the Bane from Batman and Robin, R.I.P. to both Jeep Swenson and Joel Schumacher. His boss battle is also the weakest in the game as well, because all you do in it is time your dodge roll and then mash buttons to attack him. I don't feel there is as much strategy to it compared to the others. It is pretty funny seeing his grab move though, where he breaks your hero's back over his knee, with the Tim Drake Robin especially, makes him look like a little dolly in Bane's massive arms. Once Clayface is apprehended in the story, we are introduced to the main selling point and gimmick of this game, the title villain, Sin Tzu, created specifically for the game, much in the same way the Arkham Knight was for Batman Arkham Knight a decade or so later. Created by veteran comic book artist Jim Lee, Sin Tzu is a warlord from Southeast Asia who conquers entire countries and enslaves their populations. He was designed to be a strategic equal to Batman, seemingly one step ahead of the Dark Knight at all times. His master plan involved being deliberately caught by the police and imprisoned at Arkham Asylum, where, from within, he orchestrated a mass breakout of villains at both Arkham and Stonegate. His ultimate end goal is to turn Gotham City into the newest stronghold of his growing empire. On paper, Sin Tzu is somewhat interesting. I like a few of the visuals with him in the cutscenes, showing him looking down on Gotham as if it were one big chessboard, and Batman acting as a pawn. I also like the idea of him being a master martial artist who studied the ancient practice of Mehta-Sua, which allows him to channel his mental energy to increase his physical strength and control the minds of others, an ability he uses against the other villains in this game, forcing them to work for him. But something about Sin Tzu also feels very stereotypical and a bit unimaginative to me, like we've seen this kind of character countless times before. The boss battle against Sin Tzu is kind of cool because it takes place within the heart of Arkham Asylum. He releases powerful bursts of energy out of his body that knock you back, and much like the fight against Scarecrow, the screen will warp at certain points, but this time your controls become reversed throughout its duration due to Sin Tzu's mind control. This effect occurs on and off in all of the levels in Arkham Asylum leading up to your encounter with Sin Tzu, and it's incredibly annoying. They happen far too frequently and last for way too long, that it makes it extremely difficult to defeat the hordes of enemies thrown at you this late in the game, even in two-player. I think it was a cheap way for the developers to extend the length of this game in all honesty, something I feel was unnecessary seeing as how repetitive the gameplay is. The final stage, right before the battle with Sin Tzu, became impossible for my brother and I to complete. You have to save 9 civilian hostages in succession, the most of any hostage sequence in the game, without losing all of your lives, all while dealing with this disorienting screen effect that can last upwards of a minute each time. With your controls reversed, you're bound to take damage and miss attacks, and no matter how hard we tried, we just couldn't make it to the end. So, we were forced to use cheats. We may have been able to overcome it with a bit of practice and patience, but we had become mentally exhausted by the repetitive nature of this game, and just wanted it over with. Even though Batman Rise of Sin Tzu has a few solid story elements and a nice presentation with its graphics and cutscenes, based of course on the new Batman adventures within the DC animated universe, it's still one of the worst Batman games I've ever played, because its gameplay is just so bare-boned and stripped down that it's heartbreaking. I have a very strong feeling that most of the time and resources that went into developing this game was probably just focused on creating the character of Sin Tzu, getting Jim Lee's involvement to design and everything. Ubisoft put all their eggs in the one basket, and they either maxed out their budget or simply ran out of time before its release date to nail down a fun and rewarding gameplay system to back it all up, because it feels like, outside of Sin 2, everything else in this game was thrown together at the last minute. Regardless, Rise of Sin 2 is a far weaker game than its predecessor, Batman Vengeance. There is just no comparison. Even if you factor in the awkward first-person mode Vengeance uses throughout its levels, the story in that game is more interesting. The combat is a lot more engaging. There's platforming and puzzle-solving elements, a better use of Batman's gadgets. Even the title card loading screens are nicer to look at. The ones in Rise of Sin 2 look lazy and uninspired. It really pains me to be so harsh on this game because I love Batman, I love the DCAU, and I love Batman Vengeance. It doesn't seem possible for this game to be as disappointing as it is, but here we are. Unlike Batman Vengeance that I feel holds up relatively well, Rise of Sin 2 is a disaster to sit through. Yeah, the story and cutscenes are fun, so are playing some of the boss battles, but getting to them, slogging through all of the mind-numbing gameplay in between is a chore, and leads to a long and strenuous playthrough. Just avoid this game. It's as simple as that. It's not worth the effort. I want to thank you all for watching my review of Batman Rise of Sin 2. If you have sat through the game before, I feel your pain. I would love to hear your thoughts on the game down in the comments section below. If you'd like to help support the channel and ensure the production of more videos like these, think about subscribing, hitting that bell icon, and becoming a producer for my channel over on patreon.com if you can. You can even nominate future video topics over there as well. I will see you all in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and always stay nerdy.